Welcome to the Health Science Podcast, sponsored by the National Health Association. I'm your host, Dr. Frank Sabatino, and I'm absolutely delighted today to have Susan Hargreaves, who's a really old friend and one of the great people in this entire movement. Susan has spent more than 40 years of her life as a speaker, as an author, as an activist, really shedding light on the cruelty and inhumane treatment to animals and really rescuing and helping animals in need. And really shedding light on places like factory farms and stockyards and circuses and rodeos that really promote and promulgate some of this abuse. And she's the founder of Animal Hero Kids, one of the great organizations on the planet that really brings empathy and compassionate choices to our youth, really inspires them to make those kinds of choices. She's won numerous awards from different national organizations on environmental education, animal welfare education, compassionate education. And I'm just so ecstatic to have you today as a guest. Welcome, Susan. How are you? Welcome to the Health Science Podcast, brought to you by the National Health Association, the oldest organization in the world, championing the extraordinary benefits of a whole plant food diet and healthy lifestyle, as well as water-only fasting. We believe that health results from healthful living and focus on evidence-based science that promotes the health of you and your loved ones, as well as the health of all animals and the environment. We feature experts from a cross-section of disciplines within the plant nutrition, vegan, psychological, environmental, and animal compassion sectors. I'm your host, Dr. Frank Sabatino, the NHA's Director of Health Education.
I'm great. Thank you so much, Dr. Frank Sabatino, for me as your guest. It's a pleasure to see you and a pleasure to be here. So thank you for asking me on the
Susan, I guess a legitimate question is, you've been doing this kind of remarkable, compassionate work over 40 years. I'd like to take it back. And what were the inspirations maybe early in your life, your childhood, teenage years? Because I know nothing about that for you. What really drove drove you on your path, so to speak?
When I first looked into the eyes of actually a duck, and I was maybe 4 or 5 years old, I saw a whole entire other being there. I was on the level of the duck, hunkering down, as you do when you're 4 or 5. And I just remember looking at this animal and this duck looking back at me, and us blinking, recognizing each other. And that's when I started to realize, they're like us. And then I was known for loving animals with all the relatives. And my Aunt Alwyn said, "You love animals so much," when I was 9. "I'm going to take you to work with me and you can see all the baby chicks." So I thought, great. So off I went with her in West Yorkshire to the chicken hatchery. And she was a receptionist there, and she sat at her desk, and she said, "Just go through there, and there's all the chicks." And I go through there, and I see all the male chicks being gassed and suffocated on the conveyor belts, and as they're hatched, big commercial drums, and the sort of hose in the drum, and they're all crawling over each other, some surviving, some dying, all on conveyor belts in an industrial warehouse. And all the adults were just sort of sorting the male bin, female, that way. And I looked to them and I thought, as you do when you're 9, you look to the adults to do the right thing. And I was looking to the adults to do the right things, and they were just business as usual. And that was a shocker to me.
Does that, at that time, did that promote you into changing any kind of eating habits, or were you still eating conventionally as a child? I would imagine.
I was saying to my, I'm not going to say which parent used to force me to eat liver and onions at the table, and we couldn't leave until we ate it. And I would say, "But I feel the veins snapping in my mouth." And so no, that it was not like, I'm 63 now. and it was really kind of unheard of, not eating animals in this traditional English Irish upbringing that I had. And so it took me a while to be able to do that. But then also, I think I must have put it to I was a speciesist. So not at 9 years old, I wasn't a speciesist, because it was like, this is wrong. It's quite evident that it's wrong. But then I organized a walkout for the seal killing in 7th grade in Canada, Toronto, because they club seals there, and they still do kill seals. And I wasn't even a vegetarian at the time. So it was a gradual thing. Then I saw photos of a slaughterhouse stockyard undercover investigation in Toronto of pigs that you've seen the photos. They are now quite famous photos that were taken by people that I ended up meeting. And I started crying and crying. And that was it. I couldn't eat animals anymore. So I stopped eating animals. I ended up investigating those same stockyards and slaughterhouses myself, posing as an agricultural student. So it was a gradual thing. And I remember that when I'm educating too. Like, it was gradual. You're not born being vegan. You're not born knowing everything that is happening in the world and to other animals and to the earth. So that makes me more patient for all of the people that I'm educating. Yeah.
Well, connected to that, then later, I don't know how much later, I know you were instrumental in shedding light on the inhumane treatment of circuses, rodeos. In fact, I read that you were even instrumental in shutting down a few rodeos. Tell me about how that came to pass and what that dance was like.
Well, at the time, I was a teacher in a private school. And no, actually, it was a government. It was Metropolitan Toronto Community and Social Services. So I was a teacher for children who were not in good circumstance. So anyway, I was a teacher, and I called in sick. And I called in sick one day, and then did a demonstration where I got arrested against circus, and ended up on the front page of the newspaper and in every single news thing. And so I didn't get away with calling in sick that day, but it was a regular occurrence for me to do direct action at those times, which is actually getting on the stage after the Animal Act with banners and backdrops, like huge banners, and saying I wanted a simple message for the children that were there. So they said circuses hurt animals. So it was the Moscow circus once, and it was the bears, and they had one bear on her back,
Mm-hmm.
and around on this like big pivot stand, and then another bear riding a bicycle, making the other bear go around and around on this pivot. And so after that bear act, because of course I don't want to cause any, surprises to the bears. After the bear act, I jumped on the stage with a banner, "Circuses Hurt Animals," and got dragged out. And it was the Toronto Sky Dome, and they banned me from the Toronto Sky Dome forever. Well, there was a rodeo that was taking place at the Canadian National Exhibition Grounds. And we were, for anyone who doesn't know what's cruel about rodeos, because you may not know that they take the bucking strap and they tie the bucking strap around the lower regions of the horse. They tie it really, really tight, and it's so uncomfortable, they try to get the bucking strap off. And that's why they're bucking. They're not so-called wild horses. They're bucking from pain. And I was there with a camera and got that they were scraping the horses' faces with this like rake in certain spots. They were what's called a hot shot, which is like a little hand-sized electroshock thing, and putting it on the back of the horse before they come out of the so-called chute. And so we were protesting on a regular basis, and unbeknownst to me, the owner at the time of that particular arena at the Canadian National Exhibition Grounds came during one of our protests, saw what was happening, read our signs, and just stopped it. And then here in South Florida, in Boca Raton, there used to be a Snow, the last name was Snow, in Boca Raton on Pine Jog Road. And they would do it for a foundation for charity. And I was there protesting it, and I pointed out what the rodeo clown does. And it just so happened that the reporter had a rodeo clown for a father, which is that person that goes in the ring and loosens the bucking strap. And I thought, oh, this is not going to be a good news article because of that connection. However, it must have affected her negatively, seeing all that cruelty. She did an absolutely fantastic article, just fantastic. It was all over all the news media, and the organization that was putting on that rodeo, the so-called for charity, the Snow, stopped all rodeos after that because they were embarrassed in the media to be really perpetrating animal cruelty on behalf of their charity. And so rodeos, circuses, aquariums, we did close down two dolphin acts, one here in Fort Lauderdale at the Fort Lauderdale Art Institute used to be aquarium, Ocean World. And we closed them down with consistent protests and direct action, like unusual actions to bring attention to the suffering, and getting media. And then that's how, of course, you get the conversation out in the public. It's not like, running a small nonprofit doesn't mean you have very much money. So what you have to do is come up with ways to get the conversation started in public and have big audiences, especially pre-social media, Right. So that's how.
Okay. I'm here with Susan Hargreaves, animal activist, founder of Animal Hero Kids. We're going to just take a short break to hear from our sponsor, the National Health Association. And now, to put a smile on the sponsors of the National Health Association, you're listening to the Health Science Podcast Show. I want to remind you to visit the National Health Association website, where you'll find incredible resources to support your healthy lifestyle, including plant-exclusive eating without added salt, oil, and sugar. Simply go to healthscience.org or nationalhealthassociation.org. Be sure to check out membership, which is $35 per year for those living within the U.S. and $55 for those living outside the U.S. You'll be amazed at all the information and benefits you'll receive. As a member, you're kept up to date on the latest evidence-based tools for health promotion. You'll receive the incomparable quarterly magazine Health Science, a beautiful 40-page advertising-free publication mailed to your home or offices, loaded with articles, recipes, inspirational stories, and interviews with world leaders in the fields of personal health, plant-based nutrition, water-only fasting, animal rights, and environmental support. And you'll receive details about life-changing events, such as the 2023 NHA Conference set for June 23 to the 25th, 2023 in Cleveland, Ohio, which will be the NHA's 75th annual NHA Conference. I'm your host, Dr. Frank Sabatino, and now back to the show. Susan, I just wanted to say, when we know that the whole element of compassion and empathy that's so much a part of the vegan way of living and the vegan way of eating and the kind of work that you've done, and we know how important it is, many of us that have been doing it a long time, how important it is to kind of educate children at their earliest stages into these ways of thinking and living, especially since our children are involved with these ritual of violence in this culture from the moment they're fed, thinking about the food they're eating and the violence that they see around them. So You give us a little background on how you were motivated to create this remarkable charitable organization, Animal Hero Kids, and even write that wonderful book that you did, Animal Hero Kids, Voices for the Voiceless. Give us a little background on how you created this remarkable, compassionate, empathic organization for children.
I was a nursery school teacher, and my background is early childhood education. So I thought, why not combine the two? And many years ago, I created the first interactive dramatization where children role play in the roles of the animals that need help. And I would have wildlife and other animals, like a day in the life of a jungle family, where the children learn firsthand, meaning they are the animals that need help. And that interactive dramatizations and the work I did with humane education early on allowed me to emigrate into this country as an extraordinary person in the field of humane education in the top like 3% or something. So the Animal Hero Kids humane education presentations and school assemblies I do in schools, and then I would actually, or I do, tell stories of animal rescues where each species is rescued by the bravery, the courage, the compassion, the persistence, or the action of young people. And they really relate to the stories of children their own age helping other animals. And it doesn't matter which species of animal is being rescued. Could be a dog, could be a cow, could be a chicken, could be an elephant. The children in the elementary schools clap the exact same, clap and cheer, the exact same sound level. They don't care what animal is being rescued. They're so happy that that animal is being helped. So, and then I also give out the Animal Hero pledge cards where they will sign their name saying they will be kind. And each program has an element of the word vegan in a non-threatening way. I don't, for elementary schools, I don't lead with the word vegan. I lead with the kindness to all species, kindness to all. And that helps me get into the elementary schools. And I also have these huge costume characters that come in with me. That's like Ronnie V. Cow. And that helps a lot. And I was at one point, it was like 22 years ago, there was a school in Fort Lauderdale that actually said it was a middle school, said that I couldn't come back again because I mentioned the word vegetarian.
Interesting.
And now today, I'm actually being asked by middle schools and high schools to talk more about how the animals are being treated in factory farms. And I've had 2 teachers say to me after a presentation, "Oh, I expected you to talk more about how they kill them in the slaughterhouses, what's happening in so it's changed. It really has changed."
And correct me if I'm wrong, but I got the impression that you created as kind of a center where people can take field trips to some place that you created for schools, where they can bring children to a field trip situation to encounter the kind of education and games and dramas and things that you set in motion. Is that true?
It was there was a time that I collaborated with a horse rescue and a cat rescue in here in Florida, and the organization that oversaw it asked me if I would do education programs for school field trips and so on, and if I would organize everything, create the programs, get the schools there. The specific rescues still wanted to have barbecues and all different sorts of animal exploitive things, and they actually asked me to get them humane meat at one point.
And I know, and you can tell the audience too, part of this education, I know you've created these coloring activity books and even these cartoon characters Veganza and Courage, which are the superheroes rescuing animals and spreading the message of compassion. Talk about that.
Well,
There we go.
yeah,
Perfect.
this is Veganza, Animal Hero, and this is the first picture book I did for children. And here's Courage the Mermaid. That's Courage the Mermaid.
So she protects sea creatures, I'm assuming. Is that correct?
You must be psychic.
Uh,
And she all the creatures of the sea help her rescue other animals. And there's Veganza and her plotting their rescue, their next rescue. And then I created a book, Veganza Animal Heroes, where I added, somebody said to me, how come all your animal heroes are female? There's no male animal heroes. And I thought, oh no, you're right. So I don't know if you know of Corinne Sutton, the vegan professional bodybuilder.
yes.
Okay, well, here he is. He's Freedom. So I was lucky. I was able to get Matali de Capersta from Newcastle, England, to dress up as Courage in England and in Ireland. So we went around the world, England, Ireland, and San Francisco with our new book, World. It was a world tour. And people can see it on our website, just at the world. I'm going to just show you a picture. This is after the heroes levitated a transport truckload of pigs out of the driveway of the slaughterhouses, and this is after. So it is a beautiful book, and the art is by Monique Martinez.
It's beautiful, really exquisite.
And she has never had an art lesson. She's a vegan artist living in San Francisco, and she's never had an art lesson. So
Susan, let the people know where they can find you and how they could follow you online. What's the address that you want people to go to?
Well, animalherokids.org is our website. We're all volunteer, nonprofit, and I do presentations for all ages. I love doing university and college presentations also. They're interactive presentations, and the books, any profits from the books actually helps our charity create even more animal heroes, because that's what it's all about. It's multiplying animal heroes, but animal heroes of all ages. I've recently had a Be an Animal Hero campaign project, and it was covered by Yahoo and MSN News. I think you have it to insert here. And it's making all ages animal heroes for all species.
Well, with that in mind, talk about the Animal Hero Kids awards that have brought such celebrity attention to what you do. Why don't you speak to a little bit of that? Because you've captured worldwide celebrities that are just remarkable in this whole dance.
Yes, I wanted to really recognize bravery and compassion in youth. And the first award I gave was actually in Lauderhill to a 5th grade student, Seidel Clark, maybe 20 years ago or something. And he had his Animal Hero Kids pledge card, and he knew what to do I did a school assembly, and he knew what to do if he found injured wildlife. And he saw a mourning dove bleeding, and he said to his friends, this was on the way to school, we have to help that mourning dove. And his friends said, who cares, Seidel? We've got to go. We're going to be late. Who cares? And so he helped that mourning dove. He knew what to do. And the mourning dove was released 2 weeks later. And then I arrived at his school to give him a surprise award in his class. And they came out and they saw a wildlife ambulance that helped. And that was the first award I ever gave. And it got really good media. And I'm all about multiplying to the mainstream audience the message of being kind to all animals. So I thought, oh, this is great. Not only did I show the whole school how wonderful his thought of helping others was and how it was the right thing to do, it also helped that it was in the Miami Herald, it was in the Fort Lauderdale Sun Sentinel. And so then I decided to do annual awards. And then we had a youth summit, a vegan summit, the Animal Hero Summit in Fort Lauderdale. And that was the last thing. It was 2019 that we got everybody all together, a whole group of people. Then COVID came. Well, I had one year I had the Los Angeles Animal Hero Awards, and we gave an award to the superintendent of the LAUSD school district, who created Meatless Mondays, where they gave 650. Oh, I'm so bad with numbers. A lot of vegan lunches. And I contacted Paul McCartney's people and asked if he would give a supportive quote for our award and chime in just to congratulate the superintendent, because who has not heard of Paul McCartney? And he was kind enough to do that. And he also allowed me to name one of the awards after him that I still give to this day, the Paul McCartney Young Veg Advocate Award. And so Paul McCartney has actually also contributed a chapter to the Animal Hero Kids Voices for the Voiceless book. Joaquin Phoenix was kind enough to contribute lots of testaments for the different books and supportive quotes for my work, and then also gave a video clip for the Heart Whisperer, which is a documentary here.
Yeah, we're going to come to that in a sec, because I really want to know a lot about that for sure. Well, it must do your heart good coming from where you did to see the explosion of veganism in the UK. I travel to England quite a bit, in Wales, and it's just remarkable how it has escalated, and the whole issue of environmental protection and animal welfare and vegan nutrition, it's just exploded there so beautifully. That must really touch your heart in a really lovely way.
Yes, a lot of times the English are they're more empathetic towards other animals. And then once they learn that they are contributing to it financially, if they're contributing to animal suffering by financially rewarding the bullies and the killers, then they'll change. And I maintain that empathy was created in the English because everybody read Beatrix Potter when they were in school, when they were kids, and that showed the animal families. So, yeah, it's really wonderful the way that veganism has really taken off.
And it's unfortunate that even now, it's amazing to me that a lot of the plant-based physicians and so on really do not like that word, because it doesn't speak to necessarily to high quality nutrition, because things can be vegan that may not be in our best interest. But I still love that word because it really is tied into the way, not only what we eat, but what we wear, and the empathy and the compassion for, other creatures. So to me, it's connected to ahimsa. It's connected to so many concepts of compassion that I love the word. So I use it a lot, but I know a lot of physicians don't use it anymore. And I think that's unfortunate, because I still think it has an important meaning.
I have to say in restaurants, oh, I don't eat animals. I don't eat milk. I don't eat dairy. I don't, I don't eat eggs. And then you have to explain it all. You couldn't use the word because they would go, what? You might as well say you're a Martian. Hi, I'm a Martian. So I never used that word. And then one day I was in a restaurant and I went through the litany of asking if it had this and that. And they said, oh, you're a vegan. And I said, you know what the word vegan means? And they said, yeah, I know, my so-and-so's vegan. And that when that first happened to me, I thought, oh my gosh, we've had a watershed moment. People know what the word vegan means. And yes, you're correct. Vegan should be a consistency of not being cruel to any. the beautiful, gorgeous rescues where it's so obvious that the animals were in dire circumstances, and now today they're happy, to foster empathy, really. And so,
Susan, with that idea of empathy and compassion, let's move into that whole discussion of the heart whisperer, because this seems to be a story kind of about your journey, I gather, with clips, and talk about this and this project, because I know it's close to your heart.
so I'm thrilled that Sean Munson, the Earthlings filmmaker, edited together many years of footage in a short original documentary, and it covers the times when nobody knew what the word vegan meant, and I might be on the news and I would be saying, this is good for the planet, and it's completely vegetarian. That means, and going through all that. So it actually shows a lot of the direct action and arrests, and being arrested at SeaWorld in Orlando by the SWAT team. And so it has some exciting footage, and it covers Lolita, the captive orca. And it is basically about pushing the boundaries of our compassion, and how so many other animals need our help by not supporting their abusers, not buying the tickets to the circuses and the aquariums. But it's done in a way that is really not boring. Let's just say it like that. And I'm thrilled that Joaquin Phoenix, Paul McCartney, Chrissy Hines, and other celebrities are also in the film. So,
and it shows a really positive direction of activism. I know sometimes in people's minds, they recall activities of activism that seem confrontational and contentious, and this really highlights not only activism but the compassionate part of activism, which is such an important part of this story, and I know that.
Yes, and it's a 16 minutes short documentary original, and I'm waiting to screen it. I'm not going to put it out completely until the universities get a chance to screen it first, and film festivals. So that's the plan for it now. And the reason I wanted to screen it in universities is because then I'll lead a discussion after with many different classes, economy, ethics, environmental science, about the changes that have and have not happened in that time frame, and what we need to do for the next step. Because we are the ones that are in control of who we congratulate and what businesses and products we make successful. And money does talk. I mean, many years ago, you may remember that only 2 products for cosmetic products were not tested on animals. Now today, it's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. Why? Because people said, I'm not supporting that cruelty. I'm not supporting animal testing. Well, we are at that point now. We had a victory with the elephants taken out of the circuses for wrangling, but we're at that point now for aquariums with tanking ticket sales. And we're at that point now with plant-based products and or vegan products. 42% of Americans have plant milk in their fridge. That is a huge change. So we are on the precipice, I believe, because it's so easy now to get information. Once your conscience is piqued, like I say to the students that I talk to at middle school, high school, and up, I say, don't just believe me. Just Google dairy and cruelty, cow's milk and cruelty, and you discover for yourself. You research for yourself. And also look, what do I have to gain by you listening to me today? I'm not selling any product, but the stories you've heard so far are brought to you by the people who are selling the product. So that's very valuable. So the Heart Whisperer film is free to screen, and I will come in person or virtually to lead a discussion after, an interactive, lively discussion. And depending on the situation, then we'll have vegan food after. Good vegan food.
Susan, you and your work have been nothing short of inspirational. I got to acknowledge that with you because I've been impressed by you for as long as I've known you. As we wrap this up, do you have any final words you'd like to share with our audience? Anything you'd like to tell the people out here?
My main mission in life is to stop animal cruelty. And if that means you're plant-based or vegan, then wonderful. I'm asking everyone to just think of all of the other animals that you may be affecting, and you might not even thought of it yet. You know, when you put your shoes on, when you go to the grocery store, just please think about it. And I'd like you to meet a 22-year-old vegan that I have beside me who has been adopted. So hold on.
Bring him on. Yes.
So this is Lovey, and Lovey was adopted from the Palm Beach County Animal Control, and in 2001, and she was, they thought, 6 or 7. And she's vegan and very healthy. All of the dogs that we've ever rescued have been vegan and have lived long, happy, healthy lives. So, of course, you can too. So,
well, I want to thank you and Lovey. And I have to tell you that I just want to really thank you for coming on today, sharing your heart, sharing your work, sharing your words of wisdom with everybody. And it's a message that is so important for the survival of all species and this beautiful planet on which we live. And I really want to thank you for coming today. And I encourage our audience to follow Susan. All of the location, her website will be in our show notes if you didn't catch it before. And I encourage you to follow her and to follow Animal Hero Kids and support it in any way that you can. And I truly want to thank our audience also, because without you, we couldn't do what we do. And on behalf of the NHA, I really thank you for being part of this active plant vegan community. And I'm Dr. Frank Sabatino, your host, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode of the Health Science Podcast.
And can I say one quick thing?
Sure, go ahead.
Thank you so much for your positivity and all your work that you have done. I heard your name many, many years ago before I even met you. That you were promoting plant-based but vegan diets for health, basically, in Hollywood.
And I will tell you, I've done a lot of things in my life, and one of the things I'm happiest about is I am a recipient of one of your Animal Hero Kids Advocate Awards, and it's one of the proudest moments when you gave that to me. So thank you so much.
Yes, that was a great surprise. Now I'm going to send you the video so people can see that surprise.
Well, thank you. Thanks, everybody. And we look forward to seeing you on the next episode of the Health Science Podcast.
Thank you.
You've been listening to the Health Science Podcast, brought to you by the National Health Association. Thank you for joining us today and for your commitment to evidence-based health science that backs a whole food, plant-exclusive lifestyle and contributes to the well-being of all people, animals, and our environment. I'm your host, Dr. Frank Sabatino. Be sure to leave a rating and a review, and we'll see you on the next show.